Hey, it's episode 3 of Sharing the Couch, and we are glad to have you back. Today, we're talking about attachment therapy, what it looks like in therapy, why someone might pursue that specific type of therapy, and how you become an attachment therapist. So, today I'm joined with Monique. You're back in the hot seat today. And you and I, in episode 1, kind of talked about how we started a practice that had a foundation with our team that practiced out of an attachment informed lens. So, what the heck is attachment therapy? Break it down for our listeners. And I don't know, we started from that lens, but what does it mean to you to even use that lens as a therapist? Maybe we start there.
Gosh. Okay. That's a tough question to answer in a podcast. I feel like we used to do, multiple day trainings on attachment, but I think really the nitty gritty of it and what we mentioned kind of in our intro is all about the relationship. And so the attachment theory tells us that there are different styles of attachments that we as humans have. Mostly that is developed from when you were a child. Research says it's about 3 years old when you develop your attachment style with your caregiver. And so there are different types of attachment, which kind of guides our work in therapy and tells us a little bit of a blueprint of which way to go. Whether you are dismissive in your attachment style, a little bit avoidant in your relationship patterns, or you are a little bit more on the anxious, entangled side. And oftentimes, you know this through your couples work, they love to find each other.
First, I thought you were saying you know this because you are not within normal range with a secure attachment. But honestly, I mean, yeah, first off, that's really hard to have a secure attachment. Like that's a lot of neuroscience and we'll walk through that. But you're right. Like a lot of times we figure out our attachment style because we're in a relationship with someone else.
Yes. And we should say the goal is secure attachment.
Yeah.
Right. And so through our work in therapy, we try to help our clients reach that secure attachment style. We do it through modeling. We do it through, attunement with our clients. We talk about the hard stuff. We point out whether they're being anxious or avoidant and try and see patterns through all of their behaviors with relationships, really. And that can be any relationship, friendship, marital relationship, with your parents, with, siblings. It really shows up in all areas.
Yeah, it's kind of within the way that you function and how you see the world. And sometimes when we're like, man, why am I reacting in this way? Or why is it hurting in this way? I think our viewpoint, the lens that we work from within attachment informed care is okay, let's try to figure out that pattern. Where has it shown up before? Where do we learn this? How is it modeled? And how does this kind of play out?
Yeah. And for us, I think we often describe to our clients, that's how we get to the root of the issue, right? That's really where we get our bread and butter and our information. And when we can address those things, then the top layer shifts, right? And so we get to see changes in relationships. We get to see changes in just their mindset and their view on things. I tell my clients often it's hard work. And I try to get almost an informed consent before we dig into it, because my example is when we work on these things, I'm going to lift the veil for you. And the veil can't come back down once it's up. You are going to view the world in a completely different way.
Yeah.
And I need you to know that.
Yes.
Because it's going to be hard.
I went through my own attachment therapy when I was in grad school to be a therapist. And it was legit the most life-changing experience. But I remember going home for the holidays and being but I don't want to. I have seen some things that I need to simmer with and feel deeply. I'm like connecting some understanding and kind of low-key hating my therapist at that point because I would have loved to go and be dismissive in that system like I had known my whole life. And after doing a little bit of that work, it did require a lot of sitting with and understanding. So it's hard. It's hard work.
It is. And it comes with other things that surround it. So we work a lot on boundary work. We work a ton with self-worth, and we work a ton with conflict resolution and red flags and green flags of relationships. And how do we know based off of what our past says is true, right? That's what we have to work with. Those are the tools in our toolbox. But when we get to work with a client, we get to introduce them to new tools and say, these have been missing from your toolbox. And then the light bulb goes off. And it's so fun.
This segment is What's on Your Bookshelf, where we talk about what we are reading and how it applies in the therapy room.
Okay, so Grief and Loss. Yeah, is there a good book recommendation you have for that?
I love this book. This is actually, I'll tattle on us. This is one of the like required readings at the couch, as you know, before you start on the team. It's kind of like, hey, here's a book in a few different subject areas that just feels really essential to like the way that we as a clinical practice look at this topic. And this book, It's Okay That You're Not Okay, about grief and loss, is just really essential to the way that I think each of us at this practice views it. Is not like grief is something to just like get rid of or get over, or there's no like end stage to it. It's more like, okay, as the title says, you're not okay right now, and that's okay, and that's totally like normal and makes sense for where you are.
Yeah, and how grief just like interweaves throughout our life, and this kind of normalizes that and validates it. Like it doesn't have to be something that keeps you from experiencing other things in your life, but it is a part of your life too.
Yeah, totally. And I think the author, being a woman who has experienced grief, feels so essential because she can write from this framework of like knowing her own grief intimately and not claiming to know anybody else's grief, but like as a clinician and a griever, she writes this knowing the just like almost like cultural taboo around grief, which I feel like we are getting better about in so many spaces, but there is still sometimes this like discomfort with it, or this like sanitization of grief. And this book is just a really nice like opposition to that, like a breath of fresh air in terms of it's okay that you're not okay. And there's some pieces in here that are just like such tangible takeaways for grievers of if it's like you just need to be able to like stop grieving for a hot second because you are merging in traffic. Here is like how to ground yourself and focus. And then there's also a section towards the end that is for people who are supporting grievers. I think that's really great as well. And so sometimes I recommend it to clients. But honestly, if a client is like in the throes of grieving, they don't really need to read a book. So usually the people who I find myself recommending this to are more so somebody who really loves someone who's grieving, who's like, I don't know how to, I don't know how to like show up for them. And this book is such a good framing of what does it look like to show up for that person? What does it look like to sit with your friend in their grief and not try to take it away and just be with them in it?
Yeah, I find I have a lot of conversations with people that are like going through grief and they're like, but the rest of the world keeps going. And so this one sounds like for the rest of the world, almost like how to sit with your friend in grief, like you were just saying.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think too, for someone who is grieving, maybe like a good read, but once things aren't as fresh, and if a book is not feeling like mentally taxing, if a book is feeling mentally taxing, don't read it right now. That's not what you need right now.
No, listen to that body.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a sweet one. Grief and Loss. It's a good one. Good one.
Now back to the pod.
And you also have to believe that you're worthy of like
100%
secure relationships. Yeah, because like if my whole life for so long I had this belief and now you're trying to take it from me, like that's where therapy is hard. That's when therapy is worse before it feels better, you know?
And you grow up not knowing that you have this insecure attachment style, right? You don't know that you are any different. It's just, this is what has been taught to you. This is what love has meant. And so when it's not working, when you're in a relationship with someone else because they have potentially a different attachment style, then you start to wonder, what is wrong with me? Why isn't this working? Why are we fighting so much? Why isn't my partner understanding me? Why are we speaking a different language, so to say? And the goal really is learning ourselves, right? And learning some of those tools, which brings us to that secure attachment.
Yeah. So there's like this amazing term that I feel like everyone immediately needs to hear about this, which is earn secure, right?
Yeah.
So when you're talking about like it takes us to that secure attachment, it happens because, yeah, we know attachment styles form by around the age of 3 from what we understand about brain neuroscience. And that happens because what fires together wires together, right? So that says, here's what's going on in our brain. Here's how we understand people and if they're good or if people are unpredictable or, whatever. But when we as adults sit with those feelings and sit with that understanding and we look at those patterns, we can have earned secure attachment where we're saying like, okay, like I don't want to replicate this behavior anymore. This doesn't serve me anymore. It served me here and it worked and it kept me alive and it kept me functional in these relationships. But like, I'm on my own now. And like, I don't have to do what I learned right now.
And I think the fascinating thing is most people don't realize how it shows up in their everyday lives. And so we as therapists get to do that psychoeducation of how it is showing up and why it's showing up. So for me, I do a lot of work with the body. And if an example is I'm feeling this tightness in my chest when we're talking about some conflict that I have with my partner, when we really dig into that tension, what's coming up is this feeling. And then, as we dig deeper, they may say, well, I just feel like I'm not being heard. Or I feel like I can't get my words out because my throat is closing, right?
So
that
like
feeling.
A physical symptom.
A physical symptom that they can feel. And we can relate that all the way back to, well, yeah, when you were a kid and you had difficult feelings come up, you were set aside, you were put in timeout, you were sent to your room. And that message, although well-meaning for parents in that stage, they were just working with the tools they had, right? We were told, that generation, you have timeouts, you go to your room, you have groundings, consequences, all of that. But what it also says is when you're happy and when you're calm and regulated, and when we can sit like this, then you can come out and you can be with me. So now there's a correlation to when I'm good, I can have relationship. But when I'm not, or when I'm feeling feelings that really my own parent couldn't handle, I was sent away. And so now my throat feels closed up when I enter conflict because I feel like I don't have a voice, because I'm not able to run away, because maybe I'm in a relationship with an anxious attached partner who doesn't want me to leave and wants to hash it out right
and chase you if you leave.
Yes, don't leave me. That makes me so anxious. We need to figure it out right now. We don't go to bed angry. We figure it out, right? Well, for an avoidant person, that is horrifying. It feels terrible in our bodies. But when we get to educate and walk through that, they understand, and that light bulb goes off and like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just, this is a pattern. And so as therapists, we're constantly looking for those patterns and those missing puzzle pieces of what could that mean? So we have to get curious.
Yeah. And I think one of the cool things about this is like for parents listening, because when I talk about attachment, immediately I'm like, so I'm a mom, I've got 2 kiddos, and I'm immediately like, but like, what if I did it wrong? Or like, what if I create these core messages? Like, well, first off, like I'll sit with that and I'll be accountable to my children. But the piece that I think is amazing about attachment is like, when you are parenting a child, 30% of the time we want to have secure attachment. We want to honor their needs. We want to see them, hear them, value them, make them feel precious. And for the rest of the time, it's saying like, I'm sorry. Here's what I did that I want to make right? I want to apologize. And so I love that this can also play out in the therapy room. And so like, walk me through that. So therapists are humans. Clients are humans, right? Like, how does that play out where the therapist can hold like both and together?
Well, you bring up a good point, because what we call that repair. Right. And so I love that you mentioned that, because it does, when I'm working with parents in the therapy room and we start talking about attachment, that's immediately where their mind goes. It's like, wow, I'm messing up my own children.
Like actively screwing this up.
Do you have a therapist for my child? Because they're going to be in therapy.
Sure.
that's always the running joke. And I say, like, you only have to really show up 30% of the time. And even that, there's no like mathematical, okay, did I make it the 30%? You just do your best. It's really about the intention. But the rest of the time is about repair, which is recognizing that you missed the mark, saying you're sorry, and reconnecting. So that can look like in the therapy room, if sometimes I'll say personally, sometimes my weakness can be pacing with a client. And so because I have all of this past knowledge, they can say something and I immediately know, okay, we're working with an attachment wound here. Let's go back. They may not be ready. And so now if I've asked a question, I can dysregulate my client and bring them back into almost this trauma response. Totally. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what's happening. I'm not used to someone being attuned to me watching, especially with body work. I'm not used to someone noticing when, my heart rate is up or I'm fidgeting on the couch. If I point those things out, sometimes that's dysregulating. And so then I notice that. I notice, that like deer in the headlights look, or I notice the tears coming up and I can say like, oh, maybe I missed the mark, or maybe I pushed too hard. Let's take a beat. I didn't mean to do that. I'm so sorry. Let's reset. Where do you want to go next? Do you want to address what just came up? Or is that too much for today? Do we pause and let's kind of move on to something else? They always have permission to say that time out. I'm not going there today.
It's your session.
Especially I work with a lot of childhood trauma. And so there are always days where they're like, I can't go there today. Like I have to go back to work later today.
Don't you talk about the lump in my throat.
I have to, go and parent today or show up and today's just not the day. And that's okay.
Totally.
But I have to recognize that as a therapist too, when I've pushed too hard or when I have said something wrong, or even if I'm just being curious and I say, oh, you made a face when we were talking about that. Like, I'm curious, did that mean something? And they're like, I don't think so. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I got that wrong.
Totally.
That's okay. Let's move on.
Let's go behind the scenes. This segment is where we give a peek behind the therapy room door.
All right, we're back with If You're Asking, It's Worth It. And the next viewer question that we have is, do therapists ever disagree with a client's choices but hold back from saying it?
Ooh, yes. I would say yes.
Tell me more.
I think loaded question, but I think we're human, and so we're going to have our own bias and perspectives even when we meet a client and we don't already have that with them, like we're forming it with them. And I think being in this observer space where we are only seeing them, once a week, like we're able to kind of notice patterns and behavior. And we may be able to notice, hey, someone's about to make a choice and that's not really aligning with things we've talked about in therapy. And or I've heard them say they don't want to continue this pattern, but then they are doing it. And so it's like we kind of are told all this information from them and we hold that for them. And then understandably, they're also human and they may go back to old habits or make a choice that doesn't really align with things we've talked about before. And so I think as a therapist, it's just like holding grace in that and following them through with that path. And kind of saying, hey, even if this doesn't pan out the way that you were hoping it would, like we're here and like we can handle that and be together in session to talk about it later.
Yes. Such a great answer. I think probably the maybe more like typical versions of this is like a relationship or like a job or something like that. Those are usually like, help me decide what should I do? And like you're saying is we've probably done a lot of work about what makes that relationship healthy or unhealthy, or what makes that job environment like align with your values versus, maybe not. Maybe it's more like a protective thing to just stay there. And so a lot of times we get those clients that are like, just tell me what to do. And it's like, man, I kind of want to tell you to leave that relationship, but that's not my place. Like that's not what they're what is most beneficial for the therapeutic relationship to do that. Because again, like you're saying, we have our own bias towards it because we only know one lens or one angle of the situation too. And so I think even you kind of mentioning like we're here no matter what you decide at the whole path, like even to process if I think I disagree with that choice, but maybe it actually was really great for the client to do that, then let's process what made that really great. Because again, we have our own human like perspectives on things or bias too.
Absolutely.
So it is hard. It's kind of like delicate. And then especially when you get the clients that like, can you just tell me?
Yeah.
And you're like, no.
Yeah.
That also makes me sometimes feel more stuck. Because sometimes I want to. And it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we'll say that sometimes like, hey, I wish I could. I wish I could know how this was gonna work out for you or this relationship, or like you said, which job you should take. And I don't, but we also don't, like you said, we don't know either. And I like you said, I feel like I learn every time I even have sessions with a new client too of, oh, like, yeah, I learned along with you making that choice, like actually how that was going to turn out, or, oh, you did make that choice and you chose a different behavior going into it. And I saw improvement even in that regard.
Yeah, but that's such a good point. It's like not necessarily agreeing or disagreeing with the decision, but like, how are you different in this, like, maybe previous pattern of something, but maybe trying to break the pattern with a decision that could be difficult or challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like at the end of the day, like we come back and we know, like they like it's their life and like they will make the choices that they need for them and we'll be there for them if they need it. And all we can do is continue growing for the next time.
Yeah. Yeah. And helping them build confidence and trust in themselves with decisions that they make. Because we're going to face hard decisions probably for the rest of our life. That is one thing that's probably most consistent is decision making and helping them trust themselves and like build a confidence in the decisions that they make, knowing that there's a support system, in therapy or around them when they make those choices.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not alone.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably one of the big things that we probably want to tell them or encourage them is they're not alone no matter what the decision can be. Yeah. So it's good.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you guys as always. We'll see you next time.
Let's head back to the couch.
And I think that that's like the reason this is important in the therapy room is because if you can do this in a space where you're the driver, right, and your therapist is there and they're along for the journey, this is where you can literally say, hang on, like I need to understand how to do this with you right now. So you can do this out in your world where it's a little bit more vulnerable, where it's a little scarier, where you're aware and attuned that if you brought this to your partner with that wound, that might be too scary to learn that pattern. So let's do it here in therapy. So as you're out in the world existing, like you're safe because we've practiced it here.
Yeah. And those can be little things too, of just being attuned to your client. And are you offering them a tissue because they're hesitant to reach for the tissue box?
Yeah.
Are you, pausing and saying, hey, do you want to just take a breath? Like, do you want to drink a water? Let's just take a minute and see. Let's sit with it. Just kind of watching them and seeing what they need and offering options, I think, at first until they get comfortable. And that's where that rapport comes in. Once you're more comfortable, they typically will tell you, but that goes for us too, right? Like if I'm struggling in a session or I need to take a minute or I'm running behind because I was with another client that was in a crisis and I show up a couple minutes late and I say, I'm so sorry, I was taking care of this person. Like, I do want to give you my full attention. Just give me, 1 minute to kind of reset or whatever it is. When they show up and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Traffic was terrible. Or, a kid was screaming in the background. I get to say, it's okay. Yeah. We're human. We're all human. I'm going to have those moments. You're going to have those moments. And I just think that having that space where I get to show up authentically and they get to show up authentically makes it this safe space to work on secure attachment.
I love that. And I think it builds a foundation for people are like, I really don't want to dig into my past. Like also like, yum, that's salivating to me. Like tell me everything why you don't want to dig into your past. But it's like, it does create a space where you can really understand like what's informing your brain, what's informing that fight, flight, or freeze or fawn. And like, what do we want to do with this mindfully? And so attachment theory isn't just a purist approach. It's kind of like, how do we integrate mindfulness? How do we integrate somatic therapy? How do we integrate sexual health functioning? Like with the lens that the body keeps this memory, the body, what fires together, wires together. And the early messages that you got and have gotten, they show up. And we can't ignore that. We can't tell you to breathe deeply through that and that be the treatment, right? So we want to go to the root, water the root, not the flower.
Right.
So we can have some growth in that journey.
And I think for us, like when we used to teach parents about attachment, it was a lot easier to talk about, okay, here's how that forms. Here's how secure attachment forms with an infant or with a toddler. And a lot of it is that co-regulation. You are an external regulator. You're helping their little systems, dysregulate and come back down. You're helping them through that until they learn how to do that themselves, right? The self-soothing and all of that. You're showing up through the hard things. You are validating their feelings. You are asking the questions and sometimes just sitting in the yuck, right? But we do that with our clients, even though they're not little babies like this. We can't rock them, hold them, coddle them, but we can do that from a distance, or we can sit on the couch with them and just say, you know what, let's just breathe together.
Yeah.
And we like model it with them and allow that to happen. And that's where that secure attachment starts to build.
Yeah.
And not that we want to be their attachment figure. That's not the goal.
No.
We want to show them what it looks like and how to achieve that in their own relationships outside of the therapy work.
And I think when you're trying to achieve that, it's just so messy because your brain has wired so many messages like for so long. And so we're asking your brain to believe something that it doesn't really know. And so as you go out in the world and try it a different way with your parenting, with your relationship, like with, your workplace accommodations and relationships and all asking for your needs to get met, you come back to therapy and you say that did not go well, or that went decent, or that went, I don't know. And you can organize that for your therapist and set with intentions like what you want to do differently.
Yeah.
So you're such a somatic girly. And when we opened our office, like my favorite thing about you is how you opened our office with intention, right? So like tell our listeners and for clients and for future therapists, like how have we structured our practice in person for clients who might be feeling dysregulated or might need some of that co-regulation with their therapist? So talk to me about the sensory integration there.
Sure. So we are pretty intentional about what we offer when you come into the office. So coffee, tea, water, snacks, healthy snacks, something crunchy, something chewy, something sour, something sweet, just to kind of get all of those senses in. But we also have baskets of snacks and waters in each room. We have sensory toys and fidgets. Some you can squeeze, some you can pull, some you can just kind of wrap around and fidget with. Like there's all different types. And you can get those really anywhere, dollar store, Target, Amazon, doesn't matter where. And then we have, some cozy blankets and pillows. We have weighted blankets, weighted lap pads. I have some like aromatherapy, little essential oils if they need it. It's just taking into account all of the senses. And then also I like to ask my clients sometimes if they are dysregulated and we're trying different things in the room and none of it's working, we to say like, okay, is there something that you would have liked or that would have helped you? I will purchase that for you. We will have it available in our office. And we've done that. We have floor pillows. We have, whatever it is, we want to make sure that they have what makes them comfortable.
Yeah. I think sometimes when we see mostly, early adolescent, teen and adults. And so sometimes they look at the basket full of like what looks like toys, right?
Oh, they love it.
They love it. And so I'll get a little bit of judgment at first. They're like, what's this? And then they're like cracking a fidget or they're popping a puppet. And it because it is that core, I have to stay co-regulated to be able to do this hard, deep work. And so kind of facilitating and structuring that comes with integration of the body.
Also, it's just fun.
It's so fun. So we love attachment therapy and we'll talk about this all the stinking time.
All the time.
All the time. So we have many more episodes to come on
Mhm.
this, but I'm curious, like, what's one thing that you want people to take away from our conversation today?
I think, gosh, that's such a good question. Maybe just the hope that it is possible to get earned secure.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I love that. Because the brain, right?
Mhm.
It's flexible.
Mhm.
It's always made to adapt and to change. And so through experiences like therapy or having a deeper relationship with your partner where you can say this is what hurts and here's like the root reason of why,
Mhm.
people can grow and change and take care of themselves. And so there can be that space of nurture for it.
Absolutely. And then we get clients that come back, years later when they're going through a hard time, or they come back to celebrate and they're getting
Yeah.
married or having a baby. And that whole attachment theory it carries throughout, right? We're the ones that they want to share it with.
Yeah.
We're the ones they want to go to when they're having a really hard time or just need a little tune up, right?
Yeah.
And we do tend to keep our clients for quite a long time because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably the highest form of joy that we get to create generational change through attunement and awareness and attachment. So, yeah, I mean, we'll have a million more conversations about this because it's important. And like you said, this is hard for just like a single episode podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have a lot of conversations about this. And yeah, it's the foundation of what we do and why we do it. So Monique talked about a lot of resources today that we have in our room. So in our show notes, you'll see a lot of those links and of resources. Please feel free to check them out. Thanks again for joining us on the couch and sharing the couch with us today. Have a great day.
Just a reminder, this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. While we are licensed therapists, this is not a substitute for therapy, diagnosis, or individualized mental health care. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapeutic relationship. If you're needing support, we encourage you to connect with a licensed provider in your area. If you are in a crisis or believe you may harm yourself or others, please call 911 or contact the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988 in the United States.